So this video is going to be for a member in our chat, Young Buck, who had some very forward thinking and purchased a Delta June of 2021 40 strike call. I like this. I like to see people moving away from the weekly options that are basically lottery tickets and taking on a more longer term approach. And in a lot of stocks, people can be daunted by the fact that options are very expensive the further out in time that you go. But as you can see, in this case, he was actually able to get this very, very long-term call for under $200, for $173 to play Delta going up to $40 almost a year from now. I think that's a really good trade. It's a really good position to be in. I'm a little jealous because he's already up quite a bit. But his question is, being that it's so far out, what does he do with it? When should he take profit? Well, these are good questions. And there's no straightforward answer, but I'm going to go through some of the analysis of the option, and we'll see what he can possibly look to gain with some different scenarios. So first of all, let's just draw up on the chart. So there we have our option in the money value, which is going to be at 40. We're currently, as of making this, on 8/16/2020, a little under 29. Let's say we get up to the June high of 37. I want to evaluate that. Let's just say that we get up to maybe 50 because it's a nice number and it could happen. And let's get really aggressive. Let's say that we can get back up to the highs before COVID. Now, I'm looking at daily bars here, but the reality is if we're going back out a year, we can go even further in time and we could bring more bars forward, but let's just go up on the time frame. This is what I like to do instead of trying to fit more into my chart and making it all crazy looking. Let's do the weekly, which still doesn't even take us all the way out to June. So let's look at the monthly. And so let's find out where that June expiration is. I'm going to draw that up on the chart here. So that's going to be June the 18th, 21. Quite a ways to go. So let's just do a little lines here and see what kind of trajectories we might be looking at. So there's our full expiration trajectory. And so if we were being really aggressive, this is the path that we would ideally want this thing to take. Now what we can do is we can use Thinkorswim's risk profile module to see what that's going to look like in terms of profit and loss. Okay, so what we can do is we can use the risk graph, go in and put in his purchase price of 173. And we can just take a look and see what's going to happen this Friday, basically. If we were to get up to 40 by the expiration this week, we'd be in a profit of quite a bit, but we're not going to get there probably in a week. So let's just say where we are now. So the current price we're at right now, we're at about $164 of profit this week. So I like it. We're going to keep profit even if we do nothing. But let's go forward in time a little bit and see what happens. Okay, so I've added the different price slices that we talked about. The 37, which would be the June high, 40, which would be in the money, 50, and 60. And of course, we're going to make more money the higher it goes, but let's just see what is going to be reasonable in terms of time. So we can use the date right here to figure out, let's just say by the end of the year, because we'll still have 6 months left at the end of the year. So by December the 31st, if we get back up to the June high and we're there, we're still up a good bit of profit. Now he paid 173 for this, so that's almost a 2-to-1. If we get in the money, we're up $500. If we get up to 50, that's even more. We're getting up into some very, very good money. This option that he has right now, because he got it so nice and cheap and so far out, he is essentially long Delta stock through the proxy of an option. That's one good use of options, is to, rather than owning the stock, let's say you have a long-term play on the stock, you can buy a long-term option and hopefully benefit from the price movement in the stock without having to have the shares in your possession and use the buying power to own the shares. Again, it's not using weekly options to take some big YOLO calls and try to make money very quickly. It's using options for the purpose of leveraging your account to play movements in a stock. Another thing I want to note about the risk profile here is, let's take a look at the delta that we have here. And of course, the delta of delta, lols, is going to be the amount that the option value increases with each dollar that the stock increases. So right around the time that the option you have is in the money, your delta is going to be close to 50. Now, of course, the 50 delta represents $50 that every single dollar of the stock price moves up. Your option value theoretically should be worth $50 more. Now, the further you go in the money, the closer and closer you get to 100. As you see here with 50, we go to 76, 60, we go to 87. And then actually, as you go closer and closer to expiration, that just moves closer and closer to 100. And so again, by having this longer term option, the closer and closer that Young Buck is able to take this option, the closer and closer it begins to resemble him actually owning the shares of stock. Now, of course, the downside is as we go up in time, if you notice, some of our profits start to eat away because of theta. And of course, that's always going to be a problem when you're long options. But it's not going to matter nearly as much as the price of the stock. So again, you have to find that Goldilocks zone of time and price with your option. And that's going to be a bit of finesse. That's going to be the art of trading options that every trader has to learn through experience. So what I recommended to Young Buck was to do something like this, which is set some price targets and chart out or think about what's going to be reasonable for the time to get there. I think that $50 would be pretty reasonable. That's when you start getting into a little bit of price inflection, going back through the years there. And at that point, you should have some time left. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. That is actually pretty aggressive when you think about it. But that is possible. It is entirely possible for that to happen within a year. So really what he needs to think about is his price target on Delta. And at that point, he would look to exit out of his option, because the option is basically just the tool he is using to play the price of Delta. So Young Buck, I hope that helps you. Hope it also helps other people conceptualize. I hope it also helps other people understand how they should treat longer term options, as well as see the value in having some forward thinking and taking these options a little bit further out. In my next video, I'm going to talk about some extra, more complex things you can do with these longer term options to squeeze out even more profit, bring down your risk. We'll see you next time.